higher level.
It was the summer of 1969. The air in California was thick with revolution, rebellion, and something darker. The kind of darkness that creeps in slowly until it explodes in blood. At the center of this storm stood a man who didn't pull the trigger, but who held all the power, Charles Manson. We know the headlines, the murders, the cult, the insanity. But what if there's more to the story? What if Charles Manson wasn't just a madman, but a product of something far more sinister? Today, we're diving into the twisted roots of Manson's life and exploring the theory that links him to CIA mind control experiments, MK-Ultra. Charles Mills Manson was born in 1934 in Cincinnati, Ohio. His mother, just 16 years old, was barely more than a child herself. His father vanished before he was even born. Manson's early years were marked by neglect, abuse, and instability. He bounced between relatives, reform schools, and juvenile detention centers like a pinball with no destination. By the time he was 13, Manson was already stealing cars and robbing stores. But it wasn't just crime he learned, it was control. Even at a young age, he knew how to manipulate those around him. He studied people like others, studied books. By the time he reached adulthood, Charles Manson had spent more than half his life behind bars. But that time in prison wasn't wasted. It was, in some twisted way, an education. He read books on psychology, hypnosis, and mind control. He learned to talk his way into and out of anything. In 1967, after years behind bars, Charles Manson was released from prison. Ironically, he didn't want to leave. He told the authorities he felt safer inside. But outside those prison walls, America was changing. It was the summer of love. San Francisco had become a haven for lost souls, searching for meaning, love, or something to believe in. Manson arrived like a prophet with a guitar. He blended bits of Scientology, Eastern mysticism, and 1960s counterculture into his own twisted gospel. And people listened. His followers, mostly young women, were looking for love, family, and guidance. What they found was a man who used LSD, sex, and music to break them down and rebuild them in his image. This wasn't just a group, it was a cult fueled by paranoia, psychedelics, and one man's hunger for power. Here's where things take a darker turn. MK-Ultra was a real CIA program that ran from the 1950s to the early 70s. Its goal? To explore mind control, using drugs, hypnosis, and psychological manipulation. Victims were often unaware they were part of these experiments. So how does this connect to Charles Manson? During the 60s, Manson had easy and suspicious access to large quantities of LSD, more than most street dealers. And despite repeated arrests, he was mysteriously let go, again and again. Some researchers believe Manson may have been part of, or at least observed by, MK-Ultra operatives. His parole officer was linked to government experiments. And then there's Dr. Louis Jolyon West. Dr. West was a psychiatrist involved in MK-Ultra, known for studying violent behavior. He had ties to people within Manson's circle. Some even claim West evaluated Jack Ruby, the man who killed Lee Harvey Oswald under strange circumstances. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe not. On August 8th and 9th, 1969, the Manson family committed one of the most infamous murder sprees in American history. Actress Sharon Tate, 8 months pregnant, was brutally murdered alongside 4 others. The next night, the family struck again, killing Leno and Rosemary LaBianca in their home. The killers left chilling messages written in blood. One of them, Helter Skelter, a reference to a Beatles song Manson believed predicted an apocalyptic race war. The trial that followed was a media circus. Manson, though not physically involved in the killings, was charged with orchestrating them. He carved an X into his forehead, later turning it into a swastika. His followers mirrored his behavior, showing their loyalty to the bitter end. The jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to death, but in 1972, California abolished the death penalty. So he lived out the rest of his life in prison, where he remained unapologetic. Here's where the story becomes more than just crime, it becomes a question. Was Charles Manson a product of his chaotic upbringing? A manipulative genius who saw a nation in crisis and played it like a guitar? Or was he something more? A test subject? A pawn in a bigger hidden game? MK Ultra was real. The CIA did experiment on American citizens. And Manson's strange freedom, drug access, and connections to key figures raised troubling questions. We may never know the full truth, but the line between conspiracy theory and terrifying reality isn't always as wide as we'd like to believe. Charles Manson didn't need a gun to destroy lives, just his voice and a little LSD. Whether he was a lone manipulator or part of something bigger, his story forces us to question the systems around us and how easily minds can be controlled. What do you think? Was Manson just a madman? Or something much more complex, possibly even a government experiment gone rogue? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most chilling figures, hit that like button and subscribe to Exploring the Past for more stories where history meets mystery. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.